want to introduce Dallas divorce attorney Steve Bruneman. He has his own firm. It's called Bruneman Law, and he handles all sorts of family matters, from divorce, child custody, visitation rights, property division, child support, and post-degree, premarital agreements, adoptions, and everything doing with it. So he's been doing this for years, and he's board certified, which means that is a real specialty. And he was also named super lawyer, Texas super lawyer by the Texas Monthly Magazine, and that's a pretty good, that's a big deal. So he's one of the best in his field. He understands the process and how ugly it can be, and I hope that it's not for you. And that's what he tries to do, is try to make you have, divorce with dignity. So he uses his skills to reduce the emotional and financial damage that occurs during the process of divorce. And he takes pride in being able to do that. But what he takes more pride in now is on the weekends, he starts talking to people and does this relationship reality seminar series. It's called RelationshipRealitySeminar.com. And he devotes his time in that to helping people improve their relationships and actually avoid coming to him for at least for a while or forever, so that you don't incur the emotional and financial cost of a divorce. And I think that's very noble to do. So I want to welcome him to the show. Thank you, Kathy. Steve Bruneman. Thank you. Thank you for coming. We've had such nice conversations. So I'm kind of, and we talked a lot. He's so knowledgeable and really heartfelt in this field. I want you to start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself and just how did you get into the relationship reality business?
Well, thank you, Kathy, for that kind introduction. Of course, you said I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've been handling divorces for most of that time. I've seen people at their worst. I've seen people in severe pain, depression. That's what I work with, unhappy people at the worst time of their life. And we also, as lawyers, divorce lawyers, do premarital agreements, prenups. And probably 6 or 7 years ago, as I started aging and getting gray hair, my clients seemed to be getting younger. And so I kind of took on the role, kind of a mentor, father role to a lot of the younger clients who wanted a prenup, or it was kind of thrust upon them. So they'd come to me. Each side is represented by counsel. So when the thing is pretty much written, the client comes into the office to review the document and tell them what it does or won't do for them. And so I don't know what inspired me to do it, but when I see these young 20-something-year-olds who are all excited and they think that just everything is going to be lovely in their divorce, I tell them, I say, look, I like having you as a client, but I don't want you back as a divorce client. So let me do this. Let me give you a little talk, the talk. And that's how it started. I started giving them the talks, about 45 minutes, and almost universally, Kathy, at the end of the talk, they would tell me, it was a talk about life and marriage, and that not everything's going to be rosy, and you need to work through the speed bumps and blah, blah, blah. And just because you hit rough times doesn't mean you don't need to go get divorced. That was the talk. Anyway, at the end, they almost universally said, Steve, that was great. You need to teach a course. And that planted the seed on teaching about avoiding divorce. And so I did a lot of those. And then about 4 years ago, my own divorce hit my family, and something that I never, ever, I'm from a divorce. My parents were divorced when I was 6, and I never wanted my children to go through that. And I'm a divorce lawyer. You'd think, well, I would know better. But so I swore it would never happen to me, but it did. And for the first time in my life, Kathy, after at that point practicing for 26 years, I understood what divorce, the emotional side of it. I never dealt with the emotional side because I'm not supposed to. I'm the lawyer. I'm not supposed to get personally involved with my cases, and you can't. But
you saw the pain, but yeah.
I saw it, but you can't feel it. Well, guess what? I felt it, and it didn't feel good. In fact, it was worse than I ever thought it was going to be. And on my children, the effect on my children, the effect on everyone, and it's horrible. It's horrible. And I thought at that, well, once I kind of got over the hump of that, I thought, you know what? Somebody needs to do something about this. I mean, we're all these divorce lawyers in Dallas and in the world, and people get unhappy. They just go out and get divorced. It's easy. Well, it's not as easy as it looks, trust me. But I said, you know what? Somebody needs to do something. Nobody's doing anything. I mean, there are courses out there, but nobody's really what are we doing? I mean, cancer is rampant. What are we doing about cancer? Well, everywhere you go, they walk for the cure, and people are raising money.
People are keeping physically fit so that they don't have heart attacks.
There's public awareness. Yeah. But where's the public awareness of the devastation, truly, that divorce is doing to our society? It's killing us. It is. And it touches more people, I think, than cancer does. But there's no public awareness. I guess nobody cares.
Well, and there's no way telling people how to maintain it, like what you're saying, or there's no education.
So I said, you know what? It's time. I'm going to do something. I'm going to be the one person that does what the world doesn't need. My final legacy, I don't want my final legacy to be Steve Bruneman, greatest divorce lawyer in the world. I mean. And
by the way, he is a very good divorce attorney.
Thank you.
And he's one of the best. So if that's a situation, he can definitely, he's a bulldog in the courtroom, but that's not what your legacy, like you said, want to be.
Well, that's how I make my living, but this is something that's very personal to me. And not everybody that gets divorced, Kathy, needs to be divorced. There are a lot of people that if they had learned earlier on how to be married and practice some new skills, create new skills, develop new skills and new habits, perhaps they could have avoided divorce. Nobody knows. There's no statistics on that, of course. But if you don't do something to increase the odds of success, it's like flipping a coin. We know there's a approximate 50% divorce rate. So we know one out of the two of us are probably going to be divorced. So what are we doing as a society to increase those odds of success? Nothing. And the answer is nothing. Nothing. There's some courses out there. If you look hard enough on the internet and you happen to live in San Diego or Boston or somewhere, there's things that you can get, but what we don't as a society understand is that we have to do this stuff. This is not an option. We have to do education, relationship education. I mean, that to me, I think I figured this out, that overall, globally looking at it, that's why we're failing as a society, because we don't get regular relationship education. There's lots of forms of it. There's lots of things out there, but there's no awareness for it. And I think if we could heighten awareness generally and make us understand that if we would get more of it in lots of different forms, then we would increase the chances of having long-term successful marriages.
I'm curious about, I always like to try to get some specifics lasered because I know we're short on time, but I'm just curious, out of what you learned from your own personal experience and what you've been teaching for some years now, is there like one or two specific, like common, repeatable, the landmines that a couple step into that could be something you could share like right now today that might do like, okay, that's something. I mean, you get what I'm get
Sure,
the question?
sure. I mean, there's lots of things, but let me say one thing that applies really to everything. What causes divorce? And one word, I can tell you one word is the answer, and everything else below it feeds back up in that one word. One word is our behavior. Our behavior. And if you take anything, okay, well, let's see, drugs and alcohol, well, that's behavior. Can you stop using drugs and alcohol? Yeah, you can if you try hard enough. Adultery, infidelity, that's behavior. Can you stop that? Well, yeah, you can. Abuse, neglect, just bad treatment, bad attitude. Everything, every cause of divorce, pretty much, is a result of behavior. So what we don't do as a society is we don't evaluate our own behavior as it affects those around us.
I like what you just said. That's a personal responsibility. Isn't
Well, it is.
Yeah.
We always want to blame somebody else,
Right.
but you point one finger, you got three of them pointing back at you.
Exactly.
We can't change our spouse. We can't change our mate's behavior. All we can do is change our own behavior. But in order to do that, you have to evaluate it. You have to step back from your own life and look at what's going on in my life? What am I doing? How am I affecting my kids and my wife, my husband? And do introspective thinking and analysis. And we don't do that. We're so busy in our lives, and we don't care. We're just going to be us, and everything else be damned. And
do you have situations when you're doing these seminars? Do you get any kind of feedback where you see that a number of people get that, and therefore they want to understand more about their own behavior and what might need to be changed? I mean, what's your analysis of what, when you do these seminars, how receptive do you find people?
Extremely. Light bulbs go off.
Okay.
What these seminars become
right.
are group therapy sessions. Each segment, people talk. People start talking, and somebody asks a question, somebody else will answer, and everybody just starts talking, and it's unbelievable. In
other words, they're sharing, and all of a sudden all of them are sharing common experiences and things. In other words, you can almost be the facilitator, and they're kind of doing.
Sure.
Okay.
They're doing all the work.
Yeah.
At that point, I appreciate it because I'm tired. But
yeah, you opened up the can of worms, now just let it flow.
But it's great. It's
yeah.
great. It's cathartic. It's unbelievable. The dynamic, and people walk out of there charged up and energized and understanding a little bit better about what they're supposed to be doing and what they should be doing in their own lives.
Yeah, because they go the warning signals. It's kind of like, they talk a lot because women get a lot of heart attacks. They've been doing a lot of stuff on if you notice this, if you get short of breath or whatever. So
symptoms.
Warning
signs.
Sure. Warning signs.
Those stress-related things, right?
Well, what we don't do, though, we all see the warning signs in our marriages, in our relationships. We all see them. We know them. But we usually live with our heads in the sand, and we don't want to. We don't want to go there. We don't want to be bothered. It'll go away. It'll get better. We'll work through it. It'll fix itself. But we know statistically that almost 50% of the time, it doesn't fix itself.
It's not really therapy, but it does get them going. I mean, that's one of the questions that people. It can act as a way to. It's better than therapy because you go to this when you don't need it would be the best thing, or before you need it. I mean, if you need it, great, but. The idea is to go to something like this as a way to maintain like a workout for your relationship, correct?
Sure. And I'm not a counselor. I'm a lawyer. I'm a counselor at law. But as a result of what I do counsel people a lot in relationships, getting them through those bad times. But during the seminar, people end up talking about their own problems, and they throw them out there. And it's amazing how if there's a couple there and one of them has an issue, other attendees, other people there will actually start doing therapy on that person. And it's very therapeutic. It truly is. And you get a lot of different perspectives, and it gives you pause to think about what other people are seeing that you didn't see.
Well, golly, and I see here, and I can't believe 14. We're almost done, and I hate.
Oh my gosh.
We need to make sure that people know how to get a hold of you. And how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can call my law office. They can
and
go
that
to
is
relationship
214-744.
4440.
Boy, that's a lot of fours, but
It
you got to
is.
be able to remember it.
And if you do the last four instead of a zero, you get the police department, so don't do that.
Then he's got BrunemanLaw.com, and that's Bruneman, Bruneman,
Bruneman, sorry.
Yeah, Bruneman law.com, and then Relationship Reality Seminar.
That's a long one.
And you can go there and get the information there.
Right. You can register your own email on there, and I can respond to you that way.
Okay. Well, I want to make sure that we had that, and I also wanted to I can't believe the time is up. And that means you've just got to come back.
Yeah,
I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And so, thank you for coming on to the show. And we're going to take a very quick break, and we're going to be back with Patty Farmer, and she's going to be talking to Danielle about cards and more. And I think we were talking about having you back on the 24th. We're going to a little bit more depth. Maybe we'll have Roger do a little bit more on it. But that was interesting. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.